Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to another video in a Node.js for Beginner series. And in this video, we will continue to build our contact management REST API project using Express and MongoDB. And we will start with implementing the error handling, project-wide MongoDB setup, and build the CRUD operation for our contact resource. So if this sounds interesting, then stick around. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. So let's get started. Alright guys, so I'm using the same application code which we built in a previous video. So if you have missed that video, then you can click on the card above and jump to it directly. So what I will do is I'm going to create a new folder and I will name it as middleware. And inside the middleware, I'm going to create a file with errorhandler.js. So I'm going to go here. Let's have the errorhandler.js. I will just make it camel case. And now in the errorhandler.js, what I can do is I'm going to create a constant error handler, and this is going to have a request, response, next, and then the first parameter will be an error. All right, so we have that, and this is going to be an arrow function. And then what we can do is we can simply do the module.export. So let's have the module.export, and we can export the error handler. And now if we want to use this error handler, we need to apply this in our server.js. So if we go to the server.js, then what we can do is we can make use of the app.use. So whenever we need to use a middleware, we make use of this app.use, and we need to use the error handler. Now the error handler is auto imported. So now we have created an error handler middleware, and we have also used it in our server.js. Now let's transform this. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to create a constant. I will have the status code, and this status code will be in the response. So if we go in our controller, then we see that we have passed the status as 400. So if we have a status code, we are going to pass that status code. But in case if we don't have it, we are going to pass a status code of 500. All right, I will save it. And then what we can do is we can create the response.json. We are going to intercept it. And then in the response.json, I can have the message, and then I will have the error.message. And along with this, I can also pass the stack trace. So let's have the stack trace. I will change this to capital, and then I can have the error.stack. So this we get it on the error object. And now if we go and try it, then let's go to our, okay, I will close this. I will close this as well. I will close the environment file as well. And now if we go and try, and I will send it. So in this case, you will see that we get a error message in the form of a JSON. So we have the message, all fields are mandatory, and this is the stack trace. So now you can make a condition that you need to display the stack trace on the dev environment and or on the development environment, and then on the production you don't want it. So you can make this condition as well. So now we are going to use the stack trace. So you will see that it will also show us that in which file it has a problem, and it will show all the trace of our files. Now what I'm going to do is that if we go in our error handler, then in this case I need to pass some more information. So I will also need to pass the title, because I'm going to have the different kind of an error messages. It may be 400, it may be 401, 403. So we need to handle each of the error. So what I will do is I'm going to have a title, and in the title I will say that it's not found. So I will have the not found. All right, I will save it. And now what I will do is in case of a validation error, we are going to pass the 400. So for that, what I will do is I'm going to have here validation failed, and then we are going to have the error message, whatever error message we pass in our error object, and then we have the stack trace. So what I will do is I'm going to write a switch case here. So let me have a switch statement, and then in the key I will pass the status code. So let's have the status code. And now here, if the status code is 400, then in that case what I need to pass is I need to pass that it's a validation field. So I'm going to cut this and I'm going to add it. All right, I will save it. And now if the status code is 404, not found, then I'm going to have the case as 404, and then I'm going to pass this as my response. So I'm going to cut it and I'm going to pass it here. So what I will do is I'm going to create a constant file so that I can handle all my error codes. So I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to have the constants.js. And here what I will do is I'm going to have the exports.constant, and this will be an object, and here I will have my constants. So I will have the not found, which will be 404. Then I'm going to have the validation error, and that will be 400. Then I'm going to have the unauthorized, that will be 401. Then I'm going to have the forbidden, that will be 403. And then we are going to have the not found. So I have different HTTP error methods for the client, and now I can make use of this in our error handler. So what I will do is I'm going to import the constants first. So let's go here, and I'm going to have the constant, and this constants will be coming from, let's have the require, and then I'm going to have the // constants. And here instead of 400, what I will do is I'm going to have the constants dot validation error. Here I'm going to change this to constants dot not found. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to add the unauthorized as well as the forbidden. So here I'm going to have the unauthorized, here I'm going to have the forbidden, and I'm also going to add the error 500, which is the server error. So this will be the server error, and this will be 500. All right, I will go back here, and for the unauthorized, what we are going to add is we are going to add the title as unauthorized. So let's change this to unauthorized, and then for forbidden, this will be forbidden, and then let's add the last one, which is the server error. And now this is going to be the server error. So let's have the server error, and I'm going to change this to server error. And in the default case, I'm simply going to have a console.log. So let's have a console log, and I'm going to write here no error, all good. All right, so now we have created our error handler middleware, and now we can throw the error in our controller whenever it is required. All right, so now the next thing we need to do is, now since we are going to use the MongoDB and the Mongoose, so whenever we interact with the MongoDB, we always get a promise. So in order to resolve that promise, what we will do is we are going to make use of an async await. So let's have the async here. I'm going to add the async on all the functions. All right, we have it async. But now, since whenever we use the async, and if we want to catch an error, we need to make use of a try catch block. And in order to do that try catch block, we have to add the try catch block in each of the functions. But there is a better way to do this, and that's where we can make use of a middleware, which is an Express async handler, which is going to handle our exceptions inside the async express routes, and then it's going to pass them to the Express error handler, which we have created here. So for that, let's install the Express async handler. So what I will do is I'm going to go here, and here I'm going to do an npm install Express async handler, and this is going to install our Express async handler. Now let's import that. So what I will do is I'm going to have a constant, I will have the async handler. So let's have the async handler, and this will be equals to the require, and it will be coming from the Express async handler. And now in order to use the async handler, what we have to do is we need to wrap this complete async into this async handler function. So I'm going to have the async handler, and then I'm going to wrap this. All right, I will save it. Now we don't have to write all the try catch blocks in order to catch the errors. So async handler will automatically, whenever an exception is occurred, it's going to pass it to the error handler. Now what I will do is I'm going to add it in all the functions. So let's add it here, I'm going to add it here, let's add it here, and we can do similar on the other. All right, this is for the put, and the last one is the delete. So let's add for the delete. All right, so now we have added the async handler on all the functions in our controller. The next thing we need to do is we need to have the MongoDB database setup. So now let's do the MongoDB setup, and I will go to the browser. All right, and here we can type the MongoDB. So let's have the MongoDB. So this is the homepage of the MongoDB, and then we need to create an account which is a free. So I'm going to click on the sign in. You can use your Google account or GitHub account, or you can have your email address. So I'm going to click on the Google, and I'm going to use my Google account. All right, so this is going to take a while to sign in using the Google account. All right, I'm going to click on the accept, and I'm going to click on submit. All right, now you can fill this information like what is your goal. So I'm going to simply simply have the learn MongoDB, or I can build a new application, or let's have the explore what I can build. Then what type of application you are building? We are building some application related to, let's have a other, and then we are going to build a my contacts. All right, and then what is the preferred language? We are going to make use of a JavaScript. Then we are going to click on finish, and then we can choose the free plan, which is a shared. So I'm going to click on create here, and then here you can choose any of the cloud provider region. So let's keep it as it is. I'm going to choose the AWS. I'm going to have the region as let's change the region to Frankfurt. All right, and then I'm going to have the cluster. So we are going to keep as it is. We are not going to change anything, and it's free forever. Then we are going to have the additional settings. We don't have to do anything here, and in the cluster name we can give the cluster. So I'm going to give the cluster as the page cluster. All right, I'm going to click on create cluster. So now we have this. Now for the security quick start, we are not going to make any use of a certificates in order to connect to our database. So we are going to use the username and the password. So for the username and the password, I'm going to provide admin. Make sure you provide the secured password. So I'm going to click on the create user. Since my user is created, and then what I will do is, where would you like to connect from? I would like to connect from my local environment. And then here you can click on the add my current IP address. That is going to whitelist your IP address to access the database. And then you can click on finish and close. So now you will see that we have the database deployments, and it's creating our cluster. So it's going to take some time to create our cluster. So let's wait for it. So now you see that our cluster is ready, and if we go and do the browse collections, then right now we will not have any collection in our cluster. So collections is kind of you can think as a database, and inside the collections you can store the records in the form of a JSON object. Now what I will do is, I'm going to click on the add my own data, and for the database I'm going to have the my contacts backend, and for the collection we are going to have the collection of our contacts. So let's have the contacts. I'm going to click on the create, and now you will see that we have the collection as contacts. All right, so now we have created the database, and we also have the contacts collection. Now if we want to connect our database, what we can do is, we can go to this, and we have a different solutions here. So we can use the Compass, Shell, or VS Code plugin. So I have a VS Code plugin. So if I click on it, and then we can download the VS Code plugin from here. And then once you have it, we can open it in your Visual Studio Code. So if I want to connect it, what I will do is, let's go to the overview, and I will go to the connect. And then here what I will do is we can click on the MongoDB Compass, and here I can copy this. All right, I will copy this, and now let's go to the Visual Studio Code. In the Visual Studio Code, if you have the plugin, then you have this icon, and then you can click on the add connection. In the add connection, you connect with a connection string. So I'm going to click here, and then we can add the connection string here. Since our database name is my contacts backend, and we have to change the password as well. So I will change the password as admin, and I will hit enter. Now you will see that connected to the cluster, we have it. And now if I expand this, then you will see that we have a database which is a my contacts, and we have the contacts. So currently we don't have any documents in our contacts, so we don't see it here. So whenever we add the contacts in our database, we are going to see it in our MongoDB plugin as well. So now we need to connect our application to the MongoDB database. So now let's go back to our browser, and here what we will do is I'm going to click on the connect, and this time I'm going to connect with the MongoDB native driver. So this is what we are going to use. So I'm going to copy this, and then I will go to the Visual Studio Code. Let's go to the application, and then here what we will do is, I'm going to close all this error handler. I'm going to close the context, and here I'm going to create the environment variable, and let's add it here. So I'm going to add this here. Now I'm going to name it as the connection string. So let me have the connection string, and my connection string is this one. I'm going to change this to admin, and then here I'm going to add my database name. So my database name was my contacts backend. So oops, I made a mistake. So this will be before the question mark. I will save it. So now what we are going to do is let's create a new folder, and I'm going to name it as the config. So I'll come here, I'm going to create the new folder. I will change this to config. So let's have the config, And now in order to connect with our MongoDB database, we will need a Mongoose, which is a object model design schema for our entities like contacts or user, and it's help us to communicate with the MongoDB database. So for that, what I will do is I'm going to create a new file and I will name it as dbconnection.js. Now let's go and install Mongoose. So I'm going to have the npm install Mongoose. So this is going to install Mongoose to our application. We can verify it with the package JSON and we see that we have the Mongoose here. I'm going to import the Mongoose. So let me have the Mongoose. This will be equals to the require. I will have the Mongoose here. And then what I will do is I'm going to create a function which will be the connect db. I'm going to have an arrow function, and then inside that what I will do is this is going to be an async function. So let's add a async, and then I'm going to have a try, and then let's have a catch block that will catch the error, and if there is an error we will log the error. So let's log the error, and then if there is an error I just want to exit, so I will have the process exit and I'm going to pass 1. I will also export this connection db. So what I will do is I'm going to have the module dot exports, and this will be equals to the connection db. And what we are going to do in a try block is we are going to create a constant connect, and that will be an await. Await. We will have the mongoose dot we have a method which is a connect, and then we are going to pass our connection string. So that will be the process dot env dot connection string. So I'm going to copy this connection string and I will add the connection string here. I will save it, and then when we have this connection established, let's have a console log so that we know that the connection to the database is established. So I'm going to have the database connected, and then I'm going to add some parameters here, so which will be the connect dot connection dot host. So if you are going to console log this connect, then you will see that you have some properties on this connect, and then you can add those here. So I'm going to have this, and I will also have the database name. So I will have the comma, and then I'm going to change this to name. I will save it, and now you will see that if I save it, then we don't see anything because we haven't used the connect db function at the moment. So let's go to our server. So I'm going to go to my server, and inside the server what I will do is I'm going to call this connect db. So this is my connect db, and I'm going to call it. I will save it, and now you will see that as soon as I save it, you will see here that we have in the console log database connected, and this is the database that we are connecting, and this is the host actually that we are connecting, and this is my database name. So we have successfully established the connection, and the next thing we are going to do is we are going to create the schema for our contacts. So now let's create the schema model for our contacts. So what I will do is I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to name it as models, and inside the models I will create a contact model. So let's go here and create a new file, and I'm going to have the contact model.js. Now we have the contact model. Now let's import the mongoose. So we are going to have the mongoose require mongoose, and then we are going to create a constant, and we will have the contact schema. So this schema will actually have all the values that we want in our contact resource. So I will have the contact, this will have the mongoose dot schema. Now we have an object inside that, and inside that object what we will do is we are going to have the fields that we want in our contact object. So first thing will be the name, all right, and the type will be a string. So let's have a type, and I will change this to string. Then I will also have a required. So let's have the required because we need this, and then we will change a flag as true, and we will also pass in case of an error, please add the contact name. All right, I will save it. Now the other field we want is the email address. So let's have the email address, and I'm just going to do a copy paste, and I'm going to have the contact email address, and the other field will be the phone number. So let's have the phone here, and then it will also be a string, please add the contact phone number. So I'm going to change this to phone number. I will save it, and then we can also have the timestamp. So what I will do is I'm going going to add the timestamp here. I will have the timestamps and then I will have it true. And now what we need to do is we just need to do an export. So I will have the modules.export. We're going to have the mongoose.model, and then we can provide the name to this model. So let's have the name as contact, and we can have the contact schema. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to add it. All right, I will save it. Okay, so now we have created the Mongoose object. So now the next thing we will do is we are going to apply our CRUD operations, and let's store the data in the real database. So I'm going to go to my contacts. So now let's start with the get contacts. So first we have to import the model. So I will have the contact, and this will be equals to the require. I will have the codes // I will have the models, and inside the models we will have the contact model. Now we have the contact model, and now what we will do is I'm going to have the constant contacts, and this contacts will be equals to the contact model dot, and it exposes some methods to us so that we can establish a communication with the database. So what I will do is I'm going to have the find, and then after that what we can do is we can copy this context, and then we can pass this contacts as the JSON. Now let's give a try. So I'm going to close this, and let's close this as well. We don't want this as well. And if we go back here, if I go to the get and if I send a request, so we see that the request is still processing. So let's cancel this and let's go back, and we see that we have the contacts and we are using the async, but we haven't used the await here. So let's use the await. Now let's go back and let's give a try, and then you will see that we have an empty array. So right now we don't have any contacts in our database. So now let's go and create a new contact. So what I will do is here we have the async handler. We have the request body is request.body. We are going to go here and let's have a post, and let's add the body here. So I'm going to have the name as the page. Let's have the email address. So the email address will be the page@gmail.com, and then let's add the phone. So let me add the phone, and the phone will be let's add some random. And now if we go back to our controller, then in the case if we want to create a new contact, so we will see that first we will have a check. If the name, email and the phone is empty, then we throw an error. But if they are not empty, then what I will do is I'm going to create a contact object. Then I'm going to create, but if they are not empty, then I'm going to create a constant with a contact, and then I'm going to create a contact. So let's have the await, and then I'm going to have the contact model dot create, and then I'm going to pass the object. In the object I'm going to pass the name, and this name will be equals to the request.body.name. But I have already destructured it, and since in the ES6 if the key and the value are same, we can just use the key. Then we are going to have the email, and then we are going to have the phone. I will save it, and then once it is created, then in that case what we can do is we can have the response.status 201 JSON, and then we are going to pass the contact that we have created. So let's pass the contact. I will save it. Now let's go to the new request, and now let's fire a request. I will send it, and then you will see that we have created a new contact. Name is the page, email, phone number, we have the ID which is auto generated from the MongoDB, and then we have the created at and the updated at the timestamps. Now if we go here and if we want to check, then we see that we have the context, and in the context you see that we have a record, and this is the record that is stored in our collection. Now let's go back to our code. I will close this. Let's minimize this. And now let's work on the get contact. So if we want to get an individual contact, then we can just use the find by ID. So let's go here, and what I will do is I'm going to have a constant contact, and this will be equals to the await. Let's have the contact model dot find by ID, and we can pass the ID with the request dot param dot ID. If we don't find any of the contact, then we are going to throw an error that a contact is not found. So what I will do is I'm going to have if we have the contact. Then in that case, what we want is we want the response.status would be 404 not found, and then we will have to throw an error. So let's throw an error with new error, and then we are going to have the contact not found. But if we find the contact, then we are going to return the contact. So let me have the contact. I will save it. All right, so now let's go and let's give a try. So if I go back here, I will fetch all the contacts, and then I want to get this individual contact. So I will get the ID. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to pass the ID here, and then I'm going to send the request. Now you will see that I get an individual object with the ID. Now let's make a change here. I'm going to change it to 9, and then I'm going to send it. So in this case, you will see that not found, contact not found. We don't have any contact associated with this ID. So now let's do the next one, which is the update contact. So in order to update a contact, first we need to fetch a contact. So I'm going to copy this as it is, and then if we find the contact, then I'm going to have the updated contact. So I'm going to have the constant updated contact, and this updated contact will be having a weight. So I can have the contact model dot, then I will have the find by ID and update. And inside this, what I have to pass is I want to pass the ID which I want to update. So I will have the request.param.id. The next will be the new body which I want to update, which is the request.body. And then I also need to pass I need to pass a query option which will be the new, and I'm going to have it as true. I will save it, and then once we get it, then what we are going to do is we are going to have a response.status, and then we can actually pass the updated contact to the user. So I'm going to have the updated contact. All right, I will just copy this. So now we have the updated contact. Let's go and let's give a try. So this was my contact. So if I click, I will get the contact. Sorry, the contact is not found. So I will change back the ID, which was 8, and we have the contact. Now I want to update this contact with the new information. So I will have the page malvia, and I will also have my email as the page.malvia. Oops. So the page.malvia. I will make a put request, and let's click on send. And you will see that as soon as I send it, the record is updated with the page malware. And now let's go and let's get the record. So we will get the new updated record. And the last one is we need to do is the delete in our CRUD operation. So let's go and let's do a delete. So for delete also, first we need to fetch the contact which is available in the database. So let's go and let's copy that. All right, we have the contact. If we don't find the contact, we throw that contact not found. And if the contact is available, then in that case, we will just do a remove. So what I will do is I'm going to have the await contact dot remove. So we have the remove. All right, I will remove the contact, and then I will just pass the contact which we have removed. So I'm going to go and change this to here. I will save it. Now let's go and let's try. So I'm going to click, we get the contact. Now I'm going to delete this contact. So let's go and let's delete it. I'm going to click on delete, and you will see that it's 200. Okay, that means the contact is deleted. And now if I try to fetch this contact, then I should not be able to get it. I should get that contact not found. And you will see that we have the contact not found. So now we have done the CRUD operations. We have done the read, write, delete, and update. And we have also done the connection with the database, and all the contacts are stored in the database in the form of documents under the collections. So now the next thing what we have to do is now we need to introduce the authentication. So that's all I have in this video. If you like the video, a thumbs up is appreciated. You can also connect with me via Facebook or Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter for latest updates. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. Thank you. Thanks for watching.